Well, good morning or good afternoon. It's January 22nd, I believe, 2017, and it's a horrible rainy day in Los Angeles. It's cold outside, so I'm going to use my sourdough starter to make sourdough pretzels. This was my sissy's idea, and I looked up a recipe, and it looks like it'll be pretty good. So the first step was to clean the kitchen, which is in desperate need of it, and then find a recipe I liked, which is right here, and I'll provide a link to that recipe. So let me get some of the ingredients together. So here are the basic ingredients: water, sourdough starter, flour, Greek yogurt, salt, butter, sugar, and baker's yeast. To finish it, you need some melted butter and a little more salt just to put on top of them. But that's all you need to make these. So some of these are portioned and some are not. I'm making half the recipe that I'm going to provide a link to, so these portions may look small if you compare them to the recipe. Some are not portioned. The butter, sugar, salt, yeast are still in their container. Okay, well, we've put all the ingredients as the recipe calls for in a large glass mixing bowl. And now we're going to mix this dough by hand until it forms a ball. And the recipe says that it can be a little sticky. Obviously, if it's too sticky or too dry, we'll add more flour or more water as appropriate. Especially with sourdough starter, you never know how thin they expect the sourdough starter to be, so you got to kind of play that by ear a little bit. But I'm going to mix this up and then we'll be back. Okay, I think we got the dough where we need it. I had to add a little flour to mine. If you add water or flour to make it less dry or less sticky, add them in very small quantities, particularly water. If I were adding water, I'd add it like a teaspoon or a teaspoon and a half at a time. And don't add much or it'll just be a never-ending cycle. A little sticky is fine. We're going to turn this dough out now and knead it for about 5 minutes. I'll be back. Okay, I kneaded the dough ball as directed for about 5 minutes. I did it for about 6. This is a very sticky dough. I mean, maybe it was more sticky than it was supposed to be because it took a lot of flour during the kneading process to keep it from sticking, like 2 or 3 times as much as I thought I would have to use. But the dough still feels very soft, so I'm hoping it is what it's supposed to be. Now the directions say to cover it and let it stand for about 45 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, this dough has stood covered for about 50 minutes. The directions say 45. This is 55 minutes. Directions also say it won't rise much, which it damn sure hasn't risen much. So now it calls on us to separate it into 12 pieces, well, in my case 6 pieces. This is a half a batch. And roll each out to about 15-inch long tube or a roll and start making the pretzels. So I'm going to do that, and I'll come back after that. Okay, here we are. I've formed 6 pretzels. I had quite a bit of dough left. It calls on you to roll them out into 15-inch strings. I rolled them out longer than that because they seemed too thick, and even then I took some of the dough out of each one because it still seemed too thick. I think my pretzel forming techniques could probably use some work, but anyway, here they are, and I brushed them lightly with butter and coarse salt. One of the things I don't have is that really big coarse salt you see on pretzels. My salt is coarse, but it's not that extra coarse big chunks. So I'll have to get that for next time. Anyway, we're going into the oven for a half an hour. Okay, well, they're out of the oven. I tasted one. They're not as good as I wanted. They're not chewy enough. So I'm going to try something else, but they certainly taste good. So, sourdough pretzels. Here you